you, Chairman, for the opportunity, and thank you, Bishop, for allowing us again to come in here for this great opportunity. It's always a privilege for us to participate in this event. We want to thank God for that. I am here with my wife, Ruth.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. And once more, we are so delighted and honored to be here. And we are looking forward to learning together, even as we do this repeat program. And sharpen, the Bible says, iron sharpens iron. So we are sharing the little that we know, and you mix with what you know, and the Lord will bless us. Amen.
Thank you, Ruth. I want to invite us to do a short poll, and let me talk about it before I allow the media team on the other end to launch that poll. I have 6 questions. I would have loved if couples were sitting together to look at these questions and discuss their solutions or their answers. I call it the marital satisfaction survey. Just 6 questions that are very strategic and actually following what Diana has shared with us in regard with the statistics that are showing where we are in regard of marriage, divorce, and remarriage. If you look at these 6 questions in a scale of 1 to 5, 1 is never. That's not you. You are not there. That's not good. 5 is that's me. That's who we are. We are excellent on that. 3, you are in the middle. 2, you do it, but not all the time. So I'd like us to take this poll quickly, quietly. Do not talk to one another. Let's just see where we are. And then after that, I will pick it up for a quick discussion on the same. And so I want to allow my colleagues on the other end to, is it Steve, to share that poll. Thank you. There we go, the marital satisfaction survey. Let's pick the shortest time possible. The first question, and I actually will read it for you so that as we move along, you can be picking it. I know my partner's life dreams, and I actively support him or her to realize those dreams. If that is you, you are number 5 always. So pick it and let's go. Question number 2. I understand God's plan for our marriage and its significance in his kingdom. Do you understand God's plan for your marriage and its significance for your quest? I mean, for the God's kingdom? If that's you, rate yourself. I can see people are really moving on. Question number, I can see guys are already ahead of me. Number 3, I am satisfied with our relationship with members of the extended family, including our parents, our in-laws, and friends. Go on that, take up the response. Question number 4, can see people are really answering the questions. That's very grateful for that. Very good, there we go. Look at those questions, and I would have loved if we were able to discuss them with our colleague, your spouse, so that you look at the questions where you have rated yourself the highest. For example, in question number 1, I am seeing that 48% of us are saying, in terms of knowing your partner's life dreams, you are aware of them. And not just aware of them, you actively participate in making them realize those dreams. 48% of you are saying, there we are, we get it. That's less than half of the people. Now that tells me something. It tells me that couples will need to sit down together and agree and understand one another, to understand what are the dreams, the aspirations that my husband had before we got married. What were his aspirations? What were her aspirations? What were the dreams that she harbored before she got married? It looks like the greater majority of us have not gotten to that extent in that question. It's a conversation starter. So I would like us to look at that question and let it become a conversation starter as you go back to your houses, to your homes, and begin to discuss on that question, just to find out, am I helping you to achieve your dreams? Am I helping you to achieve your aspirations? Am I of help to you? Am I doing things that are curtailing you or that are barriers to your success in the areas that you want? Look at question number 2 again. Understanding God's plan for your marriage and its significance for God's kingdom. That's a very important question because each marriage has a purpose in God's hands. And I can see 55% of you understand. I would have engaged to hear when you talk about understanding God's plan for your marriage. What does it mean to you? In what sense do you understand that goal or that plan? And how is it significant to you? I would have loved, because I would imagine a greater percentage would say, we have been blessed with children, we are taking care of those children. Most likely, that will be the case, but it is broader than that. Question number 3, I can see that here we have the highest is actually 39%, where often people are saying, not good. I am satisfied with our relationship with members of the extended family, including our parents, our in-laws, and our friends. Now, that question number 3 from the poll, it is telling me something. It's going back to the statistics that Diana shared with us, that the extended family is an issue that we need to look at, because you can see only 23% of us are saying, always, I am happy with that, I'm satisfied with it. Actually, majority of us are sometimes I'm satisfied, sometimes are not, as it were. Question number 4, I can step back from heated arguments. Question number 4, sorry. I can step back from heated arguments to prevent further harm. Here I can see 36% tying between often and always. There is a challenge with that. In terms of conflict management, guys are not really doing the best it could be. Number 5 is the same as number 4, is about conflict management. And you can tell sometimes when things get hot during arguments, are you the one who soothes your partner? And you can see sometimes I do. This question is telling me something. Then question number 6 and the last here is, we talk about financial priorities and rely on a budget to make financial decisions. And I can see sometimes and always almost tying 35% to, 42% against 43% of always and sometimes. That's a very good way of engaging a conversation between the partners as we know ourselves. Let me proceed. If you look at what the status of the family in Kenya, and I'm saying this for a reason, the InfoTrack survey that was shared in 2015, it identified money as a major cause of conflict in families. In fact, 50% of the people that were polled by InfoTrack in 2015 said money was the main cause of marital conflict. It is followed by members of the extended family at 39%. Is that different from the poll we have carried? No, it's the same, because we have clearly seen the rating of what we have said in regard to how we feel satisfied with how we relate with the members of the extended family. To underscore money, the same statistic said out of those marriages that went into divorce, 64% of them went into divorce because of money problems, compared with 56% that went out of their marriages as a result of infidelity, meaning money is the main issue. So really 2 things are clear here: money and the extended family. That's what we need to focus our attention on. But let me just go to the text that we looked at in the previous meeting. In the previous meeting, we looked at Matthew chapter number 19, where Jesus is clarifying about divorce, separation, and remarriage. I don't need to read this text, but let me rehearse what is happening in this text. Jesus is with his Pharisees, or the Pharisees are around with him, and they are questioning him. Is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for any and every reason? The Pharisees are asking a very important question around the time when they are discussing, because divorce was easy to achieve at this time for every reason. they would divorce, as it were. Jesus goes to an elaborate explanation, and the entire explanation is hinged on verse number 9, where he says, I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, and marries another woman, commits adultery. What Jesus is saying here is that marriage is for life. That is actually what Jesus has clarified. In the eyes of God, marriage is permanent, friends. That one is clear. Today, statistics are saying different. Today, the West is saying a different story. Today, our nation and our country and our region where we are, it's a different story. In the eyes of God, marriage is permanent because Jesus emphasized the permanent nature of marriages. In other words, he says, what God has joined together, let no one separate those two. Therefore, divorce for reasons other than adultery does not dissolve marriage in the eyes of God. Listen to that argument that Jesus is saying to the Pharisees who are asking him. In fact, when the disciples heard that, listen to the question they said to Jesus in verse 10. The disciples said to him, if this is the situation between husband and wife, it is better not to marry. In other words, it is safer for us to remain unmarried rather than getting stuck in an unhappy marriage together with a person for life, because Jesus has intimated it is for life. And friends, that is the same position I highlight here. It is for life. Paul says the same. In fact, when you listen to Paul as he is talking in 1 Corinthians 7-10, he says the same. He underscores the position that was presented by Jesus in verse 10, and he says, to the married, I give this command. Listen, not I, but the Lord. A wife must not separate from her husband, but if she does, she must remain unmarried, or else be reconciled to her husband. And a husband must not divorce his wife. What Paul is saying here is restating what Jesus Christ said, as we have read in the book of Matthew. He's saying that one was settled by Christ. Marriage is for life. But then he says, but I have a different context that I have a different issue that I want to raise up here. That's why he's saying, I, not the Lord. I, not the Lord. He's saying, the case that I am presenting to you now is not similar to what was presented by Christ. It's different. This is what is holding at the time when Paul is talking. He's saying, to the rest I say this. If any brother has a wife who is not a believer and she is willing to live with him, he must not divorce her. And he says the same of the woman. If the woman has an unbelieving husband and the unbelieving husband wants to live with her, let them live together, as it were. What Paul is saying is marriage is permanent. Do not divorce. That is what he's saying. Even when it comes to an unbeliever. However, Paul says, if the unbeliever leaves, you are fine. You can now you are freed if they leave. But if you listen to him, he says, but let that one not come as a result of you pushing it towards that direction. If they leave on their own volition, fine. But that is not between you and me who are believers who got wedded in the church. Our position goes back to where Christ is. This is what I'm saying, friends. I'm saying that marriage is permanent, and therefore the church and believers, we need to understand how can we live in a happy marriage if it is this permanent, according to what Christ is saying. If this is what Christ is saying, if this is what Paul is saying, that we are joined together permanently for life, then those churches that are making couples to talk, those churches that have marriage couples seminars and conferences and workshops are in the right direction, because what they are doing, they are helping members who are believers to begin to know, how do we live together harmoniously in a way that honors and pleases to God? Because anything that is contrary to that position isn't what Christ is saying. It's contrary to what the position that has been presented by both Christ and also by Paul in this case. Let me go to a few practical ways to safeguard our marriages from divorce, because we are stuck. We are together in this thing as it is. One, we must learn to manage conflicts before they get out of hand. That's a principle that cuts across, that we must learn to manage conflicts before they get out of hand. How do we do that? And I have a proposal. This proposal, which we presented in the earlier meeting, is taken from Matthew chapter number 18, verse 15 to 17, and I call it the Matthean framework, the Matthean model. If you look at what Matthew is saying here, I begin by saying, when there is a disagreement between a couple, Christian couple, encourage them to discuss their issues openly, mutually. Let that forum be created. If they successfully manage to dispose their issues together, to discuss their issues and dispense them together, then there is a resolution. Let there be reconciliation. They have handled their matter. That is A. If they are unable to come to a resolution by themselves, I suggest let them agree to invite their best couple. And listen to me, we must establish the role of the best couple in our marriages again. I wish in our churches we could create an opportunity where we have best couples seminar so that they begin to know the role they should be playing in the couples for whom they are best couples, as it were. And I'm introducing something else there, an accountability couple. Let couples have an accountability couple who could be their pastors or someone outside the circle of the pastorate, but they are their accountability partner. They should be invited then to mediate between that couple so that they can arrive at a resolution. If that is successful, that couple agrees, let there be a reconciliation between the couple because they have been mediated. If they fail to agree when they are being mediated by their best couple or accountability couple, then let that matter be brought to the authority of the church before the elders' court or before the elders. Now, the elders will invoke the discipline of the church and help to mediate that couple towards reconciliation. If that couple accepts the church discipline and what is given by the elders of the church, let there be a reconciliation and that couple stick together. Should that fail to happen, then I suggest, and I simply propose here, if they fail to agree, then the pastorate, the elders of the church have nothing more they can do. They could either refer them to professional counselors or they could refer them to even the court of law. That chapter is not closed there because we operate in the context of a state governed by the laws of the land. That could be another option when things are thick at that moment. And the pastor is not, or the leaders of the church are not guiding them towards that. It's an option available to the people because by the time you get to this could have been F. By the time you get to F, you are passed through A, you are passed through B, you are passed through C, passed through D, you are passed through E. By the time you are coming to an F, the grace of God has been in operation around that time. At that moment, we are allowing the grace of God to operate up to that level. So what have I said? I have said principle number one is manage conflict before they get out of hand. Secondly, have shared goals. This should be number two. Have shared goals. And I will go and explain a little bit of what I am saying here. If marriages and couples are going to flourish, one of the areas they must agree is to have shared financial goals. Why? We've already seen the statistics. A common vision on financial goals, including their income, including expenses, including debts, including savings, will help couples to avoid money-related conflicts. Because that shared financial goal will create a deep bond between a husband and wife. Even when there are income disparities between husband and wife, because this is one area that has led to a lot of disputes and conflicts within the family, particularly where the one with the higher income will take the power imbalance and want to dictate matters in the family as opposed to coming together. This is an area that invites couples to discuss when there are income disparities. And of course, there must be financial fidelity. Fidelity. I was finding out, why do couples have money secrets? That this husband has borrowed money on phone, or wife has borrowed money on phone, and Tala and other Talas, and you don't know one another and what is happening. In fact, the other day, I was listening to the FM radio, a repeat of an episode that was played in 2021 about this guy who lost his job and for 9 months was unable to pay the rent for the apartment they were staying in. And when the auctioneers were sent to come for rent distress, it is at that moment that he realized that the flat that they had been living for the past 9 years actually belonged to his wife. So the wife worked in such a manner that they went to settle in that apartment so that the rent being paid by the man is going to our account. It was owned by this. And the guy is like, my goodness, for 9 years, I've been staying in this apartment. Kumbe, it is owned by my wife, and I had no idea. And now, rent distress, our things are being thrown out. It's at that moment that he realized the apartment belonged to the wife. Why do couples have money secrets? Why should that happen in a marriage context? That's a food for thought. But I want to suggest that we need to harmonize financial goals, our aspirations, and our dreams. And I'll give you a practical way. Because one of the things that we have seen from the many couple seminars we have attended, and I can tell you with a lot of authority as a result of the polls that I have polled in many of the places I have gone in church, unfulfilled or unrealized needs or concerns and aspirations and desires of your partner are the underlying causes of persistent and unresolved conflicts in marriage. In other words, if I had my own dreams, my goals, my aspirations, my desires, and they have never been fulfilled, they have been unresolved for all these years, nobody has assisted me to achieve what I wanted to achieve. Nobody has actually listened to me in terms of what did I want to become, to do? What are my responsibilities in my parents' home? What am I supposed to do there? And nobody is helping me. That I can tell you for a fact. Those are the main reasons why families or couples have issues. So when both partners are aware of each other's financial responsibilities, it reduces the chances of financial secrets, financial debts, and that trust is maintained. Here is a practical way of doing it, and we call it the bucket list. In other words, allow the husband to write their list of their dreams, their goals, their needs, put them in that basket, and let the wife put in that basket and look at what have I put down together. Then sit down together and harmonize that list so that you can clearly begin to know that the man has these financial needs, the wife has these financial needs. How can we meet them? How can we strike a compromise depended on what we bring on the basket together? Because it is our money. It's not a question of their money or his money is our money and my money is my money. That kind of a talk that we always know. It's not our money and my money. It's our money all together. And put it together, divide it because you have a goal and a place that you are going. Let me wind up by looking at how to nurture fondness before I invite Ruth to come on board. One of the ways that we need to do, because this is a third thing that I am sharing here, it's nurturing fondness. We spent a lot of time in the previous meeting talking about how to nurture our fondness, focusing on our past. And allow me to pull, okay. Nurturing our fondness and admiration, organize and attend events that rekindle good memories that you want to remember. You know, these churches that have dinners, these churches that have excursions, these churches that put couples together and they travel to Mombasa and other Mombasas, these churches that make people to really have those positive feelings of one another. Create those opportunities. Those opportunities are excellent because they help us to nurture fondness and admiration of one another in that regard. On 20th, we attended a dinner of one of the churches here in the city. And it was exciting to see people who they split the church into blocks of people. Those who are married less than 10 years, those who are married between 11 to 20, between 21, I think up to 30, between 30 and above. And each one of them were dancing. And you could have just come there, you know, these guys who've been married for 45 years, 48 years, and muziki inawekwa na wanaanza kucheza. Oh, it was fun. We spent like about 2 hours just dance. It is a church setting. And they are saying, tuwekewa muziki fulani, hiyo. And so everybody goes to pick his wife from out there, and they come dancing with flowers. And this old man, there is one old man, he's a professor, retired, emeritus, University of Nairobi, name withheld. That guy danced. So when he was asked, because we began to discuss with each one of them, tell us, how is life for you? That man said, these are the great moments that remind me when I was young. This is what we used to do. So just those things that recall memories of your dating, recall memories of the times you struggled together, recall memories of the times when you had positive things are important. And lastly, in the last meeting, we talked about how you can create these positive memories by way of composing and singing songs or writing poems in praise of your spouse. And you can use your own words to describe how your wife is, and compose a song, compose a poem, and send it on WhatsApp. By the time she's coming home, there is that music that is playing there, and she just wants to listen to you. Man, you know, you are singing the sweet things about your wife and how our eyes look like and how our chin looks like, and how, I mean, all those good things that you can say about your spouse. It doesn't have to be the man singing, the wife can sing, or the poem, or drawing, whatever you can do so that you rekindle those positive qualities about your spouse. That is important, because if we don't do that, we are stuck into this thing. Jesus said it, Paul said it. We must look for ways in which we can encourage one another to remain in this and to bring honor and glory to God and rewrite history away from what we are reading in the media, that 116.5% rise in divorce rates in our country, or couples are 1.3 times higher potentially to divorce or separate than it was 10 years ago. We can rewrite history by doing these things that we are suggesting. This memory jar is excellent. It's another excellent way, just like the music, where you put a river of fond memories and you buy a nice memory jar and pieces of paper where you are able to write down the moments that you treasure with your husband, the moments that you treasure with your wife, and the feeling that came the day we went purchasing our first TV, the way, just that joyful thing, experience that you ever shared together with your spouse. Just jot it down and lock it there. And anytime you remember something, or it happens as you dress in the mirror, put it there. Then look for a time when you can go and open this memory jar and read with one another. Weka mkono yako hapo ndani, fungua, soma, and just bask in that fond memories that are coming out of you as you read from one another these things that you are writing about one another in terms of the experiences that you have shared together. Thank you. I think that is what Ruth wanted me to share.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So yes, as we finish, my task is very simple. I want to just take us through practicing love languages. So a lot of us, almost all of us, say we got married. Not say, I think of a truth, we get married because we love each other. There's no one who ever married someone they don't love, except in societies where either there's forced marriage or arranged marriage. And even in such cases, some people say that person who is brought to you, it ends up being love at first sight. But here we got married because we loved each other. So the question is there a way we could continue fanning that love into flames and fire? Flames, I think. Yesterday, I was listening to one of my colleagues. She came to talk to me about a situation in their family. And our brother, who is just young, like in primary school, 10 years is what? Almost lower primary or something, I'd told the mom that she feels unloved, and he feels unloved, and he wants to run away from home because at school nobody loves him, at home nobody loves him. And so the mom was very distraught because she was wondering, how can this be happening? So this lady came and showed me the conversation on their family WhatsApp, and she told me, Ruth, I don't know what to do. Could you help me? I don't know how to help my mom. She's also very distressed by all this. And I remember, because she was saying, how can my brother say he's not loved? We dote on him, we love him. And I'm using this example to say, sometimes we might think we love our spouse, and in our hearts, we know we love them. In our minds, we know we love them. But do they feel loved? Do they feel appreciated? So that is a conversation I had with this lady yesterday. I said, probably out of the love languages, and you can show us the next page, this young boy, maybe his love language is something different. And what is being shown is something different. For example, you know, from this, there's a book, a famous book by Gary Chapman, that is called The 5 Love Languages. And he said different people feel are loved in different ways. So there are these 5 in the table. You can see there are 5 ways of expressing love. And depending on the person, you could do certain things lovingly, thinking you are expressing love, but then you are not, you know, it's not hitting the nail on the top. It's not touching the button that that person wants touched. So number 1 says, some people feel loved when you tell them that you appreciate them. And that language is called words of affirmation. So if my love language is words of affirmation, it means every single day, probably several times in a day, I need to hear from my spouse saying, Ruth, I love you. Ruth, I appreciate how you run the family. I appreciate the sacrifices you are making. If my husband is the one who loves affirmation, they are expecting such kind of words. Now you can imagine another love language, number 2, is quality time, spending quality time with your spouse. So probably I could be busy showering my spouse with words of affirmation and thinking that shows I love him, and yet I don't create time for him. A lot of us are working in very busy jobs. Like today, I worked until my whole body was paining from morning to evening. And so if my husband's love language is quality time, I mean, I come home and I'm thinking, man, I just want to go and sleep, just eat and sleep. I am tired. I don't have time for chit chat. How was your day? You know, and he's sitting there thinking, okay, so Ruth, are you married to your job? Do I matter anymore? Sometimes even almost wondering, have you found someone else? Why am I not central in your life? And probably it's because, yes, they can change. Love languages can change. And that is why constant communication is very, very important, because nothing is cast in stone. And that's why we are saying every week, every month at a minimum, we need to have a sit down where we sit and talk and find out. Because if we are talking regularly, I might reach a point and I say, now suddenly my love language is receiving gifts. Number 3, I feel loved when someone gives me a thoughtful gift. So I'll tell my husband, okay, I know you thought or you knew that my love language was words of affirmation, but I have upgraded. I now want gifts. So if I don't see a gift, I don't feel loved. You know, let's chat and talk to each other and make each other aware. So that is another love language, receiving gifts. There are people who don't really fancy gifts as such. I mean, if you give them gifts, they will not refuse, but that is not what they are craving for. There are others, if you do not give them gifts, even if they have their own money, even if I can buy all the shoes I want, I can buy all the dresses I need, but I just feel like, why doesn't my husband buy me anything? How come he never buys me anything? And maybe him is thinking, but Ruth, you have so much money. You are even lending me some of your money. How can I buy you stuff? But probably I just feel like he doesn't love me because he has never given me anything. So again, let's converse, let's talk to each other. And then another love language is called acts of service. There are people who feel loved when they are helped. And women, sometimes if this is our love language and our husbands are sitting in the sitting room busy with their men chores and not helping, you could reach a point and just feel like, this man doesn't love me because he never comes to help me, because that is your love language. And the question is, have you communicated to them that this is my love language? And then finally, Gary Chapman said, other people feel loved when there is physical touch. And I think a lot of us enjoy physical touch, but there are those who desire and crave it more than other people. So again, do you know the love language of your spouse? If they love touch as their physical touch as their love language, do you walk hand in hand? Do you hug? You know, are you able to do it? And I was making a joke in another place we were speaking, saying, some of us, it's not our natural way to touch each other in public, to walk hand in hand. But you know what? I think after God and yourself, it is a marriage. So are you going to care about what we think about you walking hand in hand, and you make your spouse think you don't love them? Or are you going to do the right thing for your spouse? Because at the end of the day, when evening comes, everyone goes to their home. You don't go to the home of the people who are thinking you are too lovey-dovey or something. So as Africans, as African men and women, or people, in case you grew up in a reserved environment, and I think I'm talking to people my generation, the younger generation are a bit more liberal, a bit more open, and physical touch is not a big deal even in public. So the big lesson here is this: do you know the love language of your spouse? Have you communicated to them exactly that? If you have 2 or 3 or all of them, I could say these are all my love languages. One day, so Monday, if you are my spouse, Patrick, Monday I want words of affirmation. Tuesday I want quality time. Wednesday I want a gift. Thursday I want you to help me out in the kitchen, and Friday I want physical touch. I mean, it's all about us trying to find ways, because to be honest, familiarity creeps in when we get married, and if we are not careful, we will reach a point and one day look at each other and wonder, who is this? You are a stranger, I don't know you. Someone loves the Monday to Sunday timetable. Yes, I think it's a good one. How do we practice love in an African way? Do these love languages exist in the African perception? I mean, in Africa, do we like being affirmed? Sometimes let's interrogate our Africanness and see the things that are hidden inside there. Please show me the previous one. I'm finishing. Yes, as Africans, we like being affirmed. We like being told you are doing a good job. I like the way you are bringing up our children. I like the way you work hard to feed our family. In Africa, we like quality time. We used to go to the river, fetch water, walk with the women, talk, and men would sit around a fire and talk. That is quality time. Maybe men and women would not spend a lot of time together, but that is a place where we upgrade our Africanness. Receiving gifts, Africans, we are gifters, if there is any word like that. We have always given gifts. Africa is known for its hospitality. Act of service, I know men might say, the African man might say, the chores in the family belong to the wife. Let her do her thing. I'm the man of the house, I will not do anything. But we realize that the way things are changing, and especially as we are living in urban centers, I wake up, I go to work, Patrick wakes up and goes to work. We come back, all of us are tired. So if we can lend a hand, surely I will feel so loved. So much so loved, even if I don't get a gift or anything else. And then physical touch, I know what you mean, the person who has asked that question. It doesn't feel very natural. For some of us, for other people, it's very, very natural. So, I mean, we can do all these things through Christ who strengthens us. So the last slide. So yes, love language appreciation. So I'm hoping that as you go home, or you are already at home, I guess, going forward, you can try and practice some of these things. You know, take turns, express your appreciation, choose a love language that you know it's yours, communicate to your spouse, and start to practice and come up with love goals. You know, make sure that you have goals, and most importantly, let communication continue so that in case my love language changes, I will be able to quickly tell my spouse, my love language has changed, please change with me. And most importantly, let's practice this Monday to Sunday. Every day, a love language for those who so desire. Back to you, Patrick.
Thank you very much. I want to get the meeting back to Chris, the chair, so that we can respond to questions that may be there. So back to you, Chris.
Wow, what a wonderful time. What a wonderful way to deal with the matter at hand. Indeed, this is an issue that is a big concern in our society. And we really thank God to have a gift like you who can go out there, do research, and then come and bring it to us at our level to understand it better. Thank you very much, Dr. Musembi, Pastor Ruth. Thank you. God bless you very much. Without much ado, let me just take 2 or 3 questions, and I will invite Pastor Phil to close for us. Now, this goes to Dr. Musembi, and kindly advise on this. I have seen couples divorce and remarry, even servants of God have not been left out. Is this in order? Then the other question, it's about what happens to a 25-year-old lady who is undergoing violence, and I mean this being physical in a marriage, despite several attempts for reconciliation. Do you stay put, or what happens?
Okay, good questions over there. One, if you look at the Mathian model, that Mathian model has a number of people who are involved. The church is involved, the best couple is involved, and the people around the couple are involved. In that process, there will be voice of reason. You cannot stay put when there is threat to life. You cannot stay put when the children are being abused, as it were. So you must work rationally. Now, that rational does not mean that the step you take is sanctioned by God. Doesn't put you at loggerheads with God. It doesn't make you not go to heaven. But that's not the preferred choice of God to do. So you do what rationality requires you to do, but you know that you remain unmarried until the other person is no longer there. Even those who get married, I do not want to be a prophet of doom, but in the eyes of God, unless that marriage, remarriage was as a result of adultery, it is not annulled in the eyes of God. That person is still committing adultery.
Wow. Okay, great. So there is a question here that touches on it's one of enablers of divorce and separation. And I think you have avoided it deliberately. And I'm going to ask you, what happens in sexless marriage?
Say that again.
What happens in sexless marriage?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. What happens in sexless marriage? Marriage is not for that alone. Marriage is actually for companionship. If there is consent between the parties involved in the marriage, and so they wish to stay that way, let them remain, as it were. But if there is no consent, and it's as a result of conflict that are making the couple not to move in that direction, I kick in with the Mathian model. And I say, involve your best couple and move along to the church and move along until, if the court will dissolve that marriage, let it be dissolved. We live in the context of the law of the land.
Wow. Okay. Thank you very much. Let me go to Dr. Ruth. Variation in expectation is another enabler for divorce. Like when you are getting married, there is what you expected. But when you cross over the other side, things are different. How do you balance between the two?
Okay, thank you so much. I think I would say two things. One is, if we go back to the bucket list that Patrick talked about, is that when we get married, everybody comes with their aspirations. So if ideally we needed to have put all our aspiration in that box, and then we start picking one and fulfilling them, regardless of whose they are, actually having that blind, like being blind to, it doesn't matter whose aspiration it is, but you see, that is the ideal. So in my culture where I come from, we say mapema ya mtu ni wakati ameamka, because culturally we are supposed to wake up very early, but then if you wake up late, and wake up can be figurative or literal, then tunasema mapema ya mtu ni hapo tu ameamkia. So let's say today is 26th, I guess, of October 2023. If today is the day I'm realizing that, you know what, as a couple, my expectations are not being met, I think there's still room to go sit down and say, from today, can we try to have a bucket list approach to these things? Everybody put what you need done, what you expect in that basket or bucket, and let's start picking one by one, doing them regardless of, is it for the man, for the woman, and of course, within the confines of how much money we have. Because rather than giving up and saying, all is lost, and I hope the other party is going to be a bit more open, a bit more accommodative. I don't know whether the reason they are not fulfilling it is because they are the ones with the money and they don't care about the other person. And back to what Patrick was saying, if it's not working, then you can involve another party. And I wanted to put a rider. Some of the people, our best couples, we don't even know where they went. So I guess best couple is a placeholder, so that if you are not still in touch with your best couple, you could look for another couple that would play that role to be of help. I think that's what I wanted to say.
Chair, can I read a question here? Can I read a question that what happens when your spouse puts you after his family, say mother or uncles, etc., and take your spouse to the pastor? Report your spouse to the pastor. That's not right. I'm just saying that is not right. You need to have a candid discussion about the place of your spouse and what they mean for you, because that is not right. I cannot expound further, but I think you need to pick that question. There's a second one here.
Yeah.
It says it's about around the money matters. What should one do when a spouse is lazy and has not got the extra mile to meet financial needs in these difficult economic times? One feels burdened. That's a common question we have had, actually. And I can tell you, I have had this question with many ladies who have come and confided to us. And they have actually told Ruth and me, when you come again, talk to our husbands, because they are not going the extra mile. Where are the husbands of yesteryears who went out of their way? The husbands of today are not going out of their way. I think we need to engage a way of raising money and innovation and creativity and working hard. There are still opportunities out there. And therefore, churches and Chris, I think this should be you to pick it up again and say, how do we encourage people to be innovative and creative in money making? What does it mean to make wealth so that people can create wealth and see opportunities that are just around us here and we no longer see them? Because men are being challenged here. It's an indictment for us as men. We need to wake up.
Wow. Thank you very much.
Allow me to just say one thing on that matter. So
yes,
sometimes, and I want to talk to my female folk. So when a man is not earning, and for whatever reason, it matters a lot what we tell them, because sometimes the words we can speak and say and repeat them. I have found in my experience with different women talking about these things that there's a way a man locks, like their brain can lock. If everything they hear from morning to evening is now, what are you doing? How come you cannot do like so and so? What kind of a man are you? In different versions and permutations, those words being spoken, and the man will reach a point and the brain locks. So I know I have helped so many women and told them, let's try to change the language. For the next 2 weeks, 1 month, just try to say something different or keep quiet and see whether something will move. And nesitetei wanaume, you know, men, you have to roll your sleeves, but sometimes we can also make the situation worse. But men, I will tell you for free, in as much as women, we push for women equality and everything, there's just like a thing that at the end of the day, we want the man to provide. So how you do it, how you call yourself into a meeting behind the tent with the other men, something has to happen. We expect it. But women, let's try to do it a bit differently. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you very much. The discussion is becoming sweeter and sweeter and better.